Hello, everybody. I hope you're feeling positive today. Oh, I can't see it properly. There you are. Cup of positivity. It's getting a bit faint now. It's almost like the positivity is fading. I'm going to have to go and get a... Oh, that's nice. What's that? Is that a mug or a candle?
It's a candle. Never lose your sparkle.
Never lose your sparkle. Welcome to another Better Way of Life. I hope you're having a lovely Friday, wherever you are. If you're listening back to this at a different day of the week, just pretend it's Friday. That's what I do every day of the week, and it just feels better, None of this kind of, Monday, I don't want to get up, or Wednesday, it's hump day, we're nearly there. No, just start every day by saying, today's Friday, and then life is a beach, my friend. And
I'm not sure about that cup. It's a bit too stumpy and white.
What, this one?
A bit too... Yeah.
Well, it looks like me.
Well, you know me.
It looks like me.
It's
like, it goes out at that part.
What is that on there? Are they flowers? What is it?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
It looks like an animal print type.
It does look like an animal print, or I
want to say like something rude, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, I think it looks like gone off eggs. There we go.
To see what Gemma thinks of it.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We're going to start this week. We've got a special guest, Fran, who's going to be joining us shortly. But we're going to start this week by talking about some of the things that I've got on my desk. And Marianne, you can join in and tell us some of the things you've got on your desk. And then when Fran comes in, she can tell us some of the things that she perhaps has got in her house. And that's a good way to all kind of break the ice and get to know each other. If you're listening or you're watching this out there, tell us some of the things that you've got on your desk as you're watching. So I'm going to start with this. So this is an interview that I did earlier in the week, and then the interviewee, Fran Ashcroft, sent me a copy of his CD. There we go. And I love the title. For anyone that's trying to read that in its back to frontness now, sorry about that. But the songs that never were. I love that as a title. Yeah. Can you think of things that never were, Marianne?
Because they never were.
Well, yeah. Can you think of any of those things that never were?
Anything.
Yeah, anything.
Me being a physiotherapist. I wanted to be.
There you go. You see,
and I never was.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Fran, you're listening in the background. Think of something that you never were. I love the thought.
Quiet. I'm never quiet either.
Yeah.
Quiet.
Well, there you go. I love the idea of us thinking about things that never were. And if you're listening, just think about things that never were in your life.
I'll show you something else on my desk. My son
does
this.
Oh yeah, okay. Can we get it closer to the camera?
Tough.
Just push it in close. Yeah. And what? Oh, it's a pound.
So what this is, it's not though. It's basically he got lots of foil, and he made it into this coin. He kind of flattened it and compacted it down, and he did lots of different versions of it, but very, very chuffed. It's very flat and very tough. Under.
So there we go.
And I've got some clear nail varnish and some of these ceramic wellies that I got from the charity shop because I don't need them, but I just thought they were quite cool.
I love those. An essential that I've got on my desk is Ultimate Glasses cleaning spray, but you need to have the cloth with it as well. That's really important because otherwise you can't see. It's a weird thing, but actually you'll see this with children an awful lot. Which is that the children that wear glasses, quite often, if you actually take the glasses off their head and actually look through the glasses, you'll notice that they couldn't possibly see a thing because they just get them so dirty. And you wonder, you go, well, how on earth have you been looking through that? And the final thing that I'm going to show you is a little present that I got bought yesterday, which I may well consume later. There we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And they're the fizzy ones. We can start a whole debate, actually. Which are the best Collins out there? If you'd just like to write in, let us know. Do you go for the standard cola bottle ones? Do you go for the fruit ones, or do you go for the fizzy ones? There we go. So that's a few things from my desk. A few, in fact, odds and ends, which I think is a great term. And that, does anyone know what that is?
Is that like a universal?
You can actually read it there. It says it's a radiator key. Yeah, it's the key to the radiator. So if I want to go into the radiator, I need that. Now let's welcome Fran. And Fran, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Do you have any things there that you'd like to share with us?
So well, the most interesting thing that I've got like right in front of me, elevated, is which I can't probably show you, is my air cast boots, because I have my major foot surgery on the 13th of December. So I'm in a very posh air cast boot that I like pump up air into and then pump it down when I am sitting down.
Is it quite comfortable? Is it doing the job?
Yeah. No, I'm doing all right. I've got physio again on Monday. But yeah, I'm doing okay. It's a very slow progress. But yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Oh, I love that. Well, good luck with that. And also, we need to just say, because it's a special day for you today, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's our wedding anniversary.
Oh, what a fantastic thing. Thank you for coming on your wedding anniversary.
And I was there as well at the wedding.
You were there, and actually we will be putting a post out of Marianne at some point in the dress that she was wearing on the day, so that you all can see and see if you can spot the condition that Marianne was in. And we're not talking alcohol. Right now, Fran, you need to tell us a little bit about yourself. So go ahead.
So I, since the age of 4, I wanted to be a social worker, and pardon?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So, and I am actually a social worker now. I work for a local authority. But I did want to be a doctor, and that would have been my what am I not now, or what have I never been? What was never there? That was that's so. We lived very close to the Dunstable Hospital, so I think at one point I thought, oh, that would be brilliant. I'll just like literally walk to work and be a doctor. But no, my real heart and passion was, so my mum and dad fostered, so I had 18 foster brothers and sisters throughout my childhood.
Wow.
So that was very, very impactful upon my life in terms of, seeing children come literally with a small black bag of items that really, weren't always very helpful, weren't even very sometimes meaningful for the child. It literally, they came with very, very little things. And then obviously because I went to my mum and dad, I was a bursary girl at a private girls' school in Bedfordshire, and which was an amazing school, and it was such a privilege and opportunity to be there. But of course they had a lot of money, so I can remember going to a party once and being driven up the drive and was like, oh, which flat do you live in? And they were like, that's our house.
Which school was it in Bedfordshire? Because I'm from Bedfordshire originally.
Oh, I went to Bedford High School for girls.
You went to Bedford High School, yeah, right? Okay. Obviously, I didn't. I went to Wootton because that's where you see just down the road. But there we go. Yeah. But I did know people that went to Bedford High School, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do continue.
So I think it was really very. I was always felt like, and I probably have even into my adulthood, felt like I'm in the middle. Do you know, like with extreme poverty and really hard situations, and then obviously some people who are very, very privileged and don't have to think or worry or concern themselves about money at any point, and obviously that then opens doors for them in many situations. I've just been sort of writing some notes actually recently about social work and what the ideal social work would be, either as a statutory social worker or in the voluntary sector, but I've always obviously been qualified. And I think one thing is about people's money and the level of poverty that families are in, because a lot of situations probably wouldn't be as bad as they are if people had more disposable income, and I think that then can obviously really, yes, obviously families can survive and do survive on very, very little money, but that obviously can really impact.
Survive. Yeah. It's survive though, isn't it? We were talking about this just before, Graham, weren't we? It's what's enough. So yeah, you and I have both seen it. What's surviving isn't necessarily giving young people the best chance.
No, and I think even now, like for many social workers, and for many of our family, it's really hard, isn't it, when the cost of living is so huge, where money's going, and then you think, oh gosh, it's difficult. And yes, you are okay, but you have to make more decisions than necessarily you did previously. So I know so there's a couple of local food banks that we're connected to, my husband and I, and they are seeing huge amounts of professionals going into them now. So I went through my school and obviously had my foster brothers and sisters, which was amazing. It's been sad to see how some of their situations have turned out, and then others have done really, really well. We're not in contact with many of them now, but I'm in contact with about 5 of them. Unfortunately, one of them did go to prison for quite a long time, unfortunately, but he is out, and he is able to have some family time with his daughters, so that's nice. And I think he's back in contact with his birth mum, who and I think they're doing okay. So
it's interesting though, isn't it, because when we had Dean on last week, when he was talking about one of the guys that he'd I don't know if you've seen that one yet, but when he had had contact, one of the dads that he'd looked after in care had contacted him, and I think he'd been to prison. And for me, I was saying on there, and you'll understand this, Fran, because I'd worked with young people in care, all sorts of situations. But and quite often the police used to say to me, I don't know how you do what you do, because I used to go and sit with them as an appropriate adult. And I said, because I don't do what you do, and I don't judge them, because I don't, I'm very fortunate. My parents brought me up to say please and thank you, and have, do all the right things by society's standards or the law. These people don't have that. And so, as you say, and particularly people that have not had that, I say, a good start in life, but actually, if you then go and look at their parents, we're all just trying our best, I'm sure all of us have found times. And I just said yesterday to someone, I just feel really pleased that I try not to judge people on being good and bad, because I just feel really grateful that I've been given the wiring or the something where things haven't gone completely wrong, and I've managed to stay somewhat on the straight and narrow, because it only takes one. You know, I know one of my cousins, he had got into various situations, and you know, he's fine now. Unfortunately, he's got cancer, but it wasn't because he was bad. It wasn't his upbringing. It wasn't any of those things. It was just kind of life. And sometimes you make a decision, and that's it then. And then, as you say, that a lot of the people that you had living with you had come from situations where they hadn't had that start. And if they don't have that start, and sometimes, like you say, that does mean money. Whether it's, you know, Oliver now got into boxing, and I know that boxing and sport for many kids, and even doing those things now, it costs too much money for many families. If you've got to make a choice, and that could be because you've had the income, you know, I lost all my income through the pandemic, and all of our savings went, not because we did anything wrong. And actually, some people have never picked themselves up after that. So I really take my hat off to people like your family and you doing what you're doing. So.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit, Fran, about how the role of education in all of this, because, and Marianne, you'll doubtless want to pick up on this, but I was thinking as you were talking, especially towards the beginning of what you were saying, I was thinking about a program that I was watching on the TV last night, which is a program that a lot of people watching this or listening to this will have watched, which is Rich House, Poor House, or actually the one that we watched last night is the one where you know, holiday swap. I don't think the holiday swap one is as good personally. I think sometimes it's a little bit fake. But the point of that program, or the point of those programs, and the reason that they get high viewing is because there's something in there about people being more aware and people learning and people being educated about what people on the other side of the fence, if you like, are going through. But also, and it goes both ways. So people that have wealth, it's about them perhaps learning where they've lost touch with reality and where they can come back to reality a little bit more, and also perhaps how they can get involved. And what the ones which I think everybody loves to see is where the wealthy people realize, oh, actually I could be giving back here more, or I could be making more of an impact with my wealth. Because it's not the fact that some people have money and some people, you know, have less money, that in itself, it's a problem. But the actual divide of wealth, where it really becomes a problem, is that people that have money want to hold on to their money. That's where the problem lies, right? Is that there's no want to kind of distribute that wealth back into society to help society. And if all of the time we're always looking at the government or this, that, and the other to say, right, get us out of the hole here, right? But with what? You know, if there's no money in the collective pot, where are we raising the funds to, you know, get this in? You know, we're going to have a general election this year. There may well be a change of government, right? There may be, and I'm not being political about this at all. Do you know what? I couldn't give a monkey's one way or the other. Who's, you know, I do care who's in, but I don't care about the whole process. But the thing is, anybody that's voting thinking if we change the government from what we've got at the moment to another government, and that's going to solve all the money problems and all of the issues in terms of disparity in the country, is barking up the wrong tree. Because, you know, with what? There's only a finite amount of resources. But ultimately, if we start educating at every level, then maybe we start to get this right. Because even people that don't have money, are they making the right choices in terms of the money that they have got, the little money that they have got? You know, are they spending it in the right places? You know, if you've got a family that doesn't have much money and they're buying takeaway, you know, 3 days out of 7 in a week, that's not going to help them, you know. Are we teaching them how to cook? Are we getting involved in, you know?
So I ended up being the manager of these 2 children's centres, and they'd already, well, when I was the children and families worker, we'd started like a cookery programme, and I remember like one of the mums literally saying, "But how do you make that potato?" And I said, "Right, here we are. Here's the potato, and this is what we do." And yeah, she literally didn't know.
But is some of it to do with when I look at my upbringing, I look at who I am today, so many of the things I do, and you can't know what you don't know, which is funny. Getting back to what we said at the beginning, Graham, you can't know what I don't know, whether what I am now is, you know, my mum's Fran, I know your mum, whether I sincerely think the person I am today is because of some of what my parents have created from me. And not them telling me what to do, but maybe I saw my mum make spaghetti bolognese from scratch. And my mum worked as well. My mum worked full time. My dad worked away as well. And I just wonder what effect with social media and this kind of thing. I mean, even earlier on, Graham and I had a discussion about a bit of a spat we got into with someone earlier on, and just saying about the effect that it has on young people. Sometimes I saw Oliver do something this week and I went, "Are you for real?" And I felt a bit embarrassed that my son and I went, like this. So and I had to step back and I educated him on how to do this particular thing. And I thought it's not really even their fault. Like, people blame young people blame people for stuff, but actually, is it their fault, or is it just that I walk around with my eyes, I would say, more open? But is it more open? It's not more open. It's just they're open to certain things. And so, you know, I worked in a prison. I did my placement in a prison, and that was quite an eye opener. Why was it an eye opener? I don't know, because then I worked with children or young people in care, and I remember having to, you'll know about this kind of stuff as well, Fran, that I'd have to go and follow this young girl, knowing that she was going to go to meet somebody who was going to pay her for sex, and just thinking, wow, this is so far removed from my life, but to not judge, and just thinking, you know, her mum had used her to teach her about how she could make money with her body by using her own boyfriend. And I don't know, it just gets me thinking all the time that I make judgments, and I admit that I do, and I take a check of myself to go, well, actually, that person that put Coke in that bottle, or that person that gave Cocoa Pops every morning, or gave this, or did this, gosh, Marianne, are you being judgmental? Or actually, have I chosen that I'm going to educate myself more? Does that come about because my parents? Maybe, I don't know. And then you go round and round in circles with it. I would like to think that I'm not a judgmental person, which is a load of rubbish, because you do it. We all do it. And I say to people, what goes on in here is one thing, it's what comes out. And I said to someone the other day that I'm ashamed to admit there was something I thought years ago, but then I thought, am I ashamed? No, because it's all about educating ourselves, isn't it? And I think, yeah, I get frustrated, I guess, because I was brought up to I don't even want to say that my parents weren't particularly educated, but just open your eyes. And it's frustrating where people can be quite closed-minded, because the spat we got into this morning was about having freedom of speech, and that someone I made a comment about something that Graham had said, and then this person said, well, you shouldn't think that. And I thought, well, you're now stopping me from having, you know, freedom of speech. But yeah, it's just really difficult, isn't it? Because there's times that I see, you know, I've done a lot of charity work, and there's times I see collections for things, and I do get a bit frustrated, because sometimes I think that when I was younger, very few people went on foreign holidays. You had to families made choices, and there's times now that I see some people have things because they want it, because other people have got it, and I think, well, that's just life. And it feels like now sometimes that people just don't have to go without because somebody's going to give, because that person feels entitled to it. And I'm not talking about not being able to pay. I'm talking about my child, I want them to not me. Some people want their children to have X, Y, and Z for Christmas, and I think, but actually, if you can't, not everybody can have that. I had to have secondhand thin stuff. I had to have secondhand everything when I was younger, and that actually taught me now. I think that's the thing. It taught me now that I have secondhand everything because that's what I choose to do, because it means there's more money for other things. So I just wonder nowadays whether people, there's how that money is spent. I think that's what we were talking about, is how people learn how that money is spent. Like you said about the waffles, that's a perfect example. That arguably that's more expensive than it is buying a potato, because people don't have to. People don't have to make those choices.
No,
Is
I mean,
it not about motivation as well, though? I just wonder if part of it's about motivation, because yes, it's about education, but it's also about motivation. And an interesting thing is, actually, if you watched that program last night, at one point, the rich person who was camping in the middle of nowhere or whatever decided to cook, and they'd never cooked before in their life. And there was a funny scene where you saw them cooking broccoli on a camping stove, and literally they just put the whole of a broccoli into a pan of water with and actually they put the stalk in with the head of the broccoli up. But right. And then I reckon that
go on the internet and it tell you how to do it.
But I reckon the camera crew must have then stepped in and gone, no, you don't do it like that. Because the next thing is you saw everything in a pan and it was all predominantly looking right. So, you know, I think, you know, but the point is that in a way, do you almost think, money-wise and society-wise, I'll throw this out here, I might be being controversial here, and I'm just saying it for the sake of it, really. But it's almost the people in the middle that actually get on and actually find the right ways to do things, because the people at the top that have got all of the money, they can just phone up the food ordering service and it arrives, right? Yeah, so they can, they can have a private chef or whatever. They don't need to cook because someone else will do it, or they can go to a restaurant because someone else will do it for them. The people at the bottom should be cooking because it would save them money. Possibly just don't have the motivation to do it because life is hard, right? And maybe sometimes money goes in the wrong places because, quite frankly, there doesn't seem like much to look forward to, right? I remember distinctly when I was at university in a building that's no longer there because, quite frankly, it was dangerous, which was a block of flats, standing looking out over this one street in Sunderland, and there was, and this image has never left me, and there was a row of houses that all had holes in their roofs. Right, so there was rain coming in to these houses, which was obviously causing damp problems and, you know, major issues for the families that were living there. Yet they all had satellite dishes. They all had satellite dishes. Right now, it might be that they had free satellite and that, you know, someone was paying for that or whatever else. But the point is, right, you could look at that and you could go from the outside and you go, why on earth have they got satellite when actually what they need to do is mend the roof, right?
Yeah,
but actually, do you get to a point if you're down there where actually it's really hard to motivate yourself to be more than just today?
Because also if you don't have the financial means, like I know with, you know, me in terms of my earning potential, lots of things I could do, but I guess if you want to make yourself happy for the today, if that does mean buying that packet of cigarettes or having that drink or doing whatever it is, that sorts out for today, because actually you don't know whether you're going to be able to afford. I mean, I've seen with kids in care quite often, you'd see that they'd have sweets and they'd eat a whole lot in one go. But largely that was because they never knew when they were going to have that again. So actually, if I have it all now, nobody's going to take it because I don't know who might take it, but also I don't want to, I don't want to lose it. It was a good point, Fran, when I think, Graham, you said about the people in the middle, and I wonder if for the people that I know that I get on with, and they could be people that are any end of the wealth, any end. But actually, what brings us together is the thing that brought Fran and I together, that probably nobody would ever know, and they would never know. I never would have met Fran if we hadn't gone through something awful, because she lost her dad to suicide as well. And what I find is that whenever I go to the retreats that we organise, I sit there and I quite often sit there and I think I never would have known these people ever. People that have all sorts of jobs, all sorts of backgrounds, and other things that have happened in my life. And I think we're the people that get on the best, because actually it's that thing. And so then money then becomes nothing quite often. And actually I think the things that bring people together are when you've gone through such an awful time, but you've used that, when you've used that to help you grow. So that, I will sit and have a meal with somebody that's got no money, and I would sit and eat with them on the floor, through to somebody in a posh restaurant. Probably won't actually like most of the food there anyway, but I quite like wearing a dress to go to those places, so that's fine. But because it comes down to judgment, that I would try always to get into, to know that person, to know why they do what they do, why they think what they do. And I think, Fran, for what you do, that's so important, isn't it? You go into situations that are far removed. You can't change who you are. When I was in the prison, they said, your words are too big that you're using. And I thought, okay. So I've sort of changed when I teach people, that I still use my language, but I use language that anybody would, might understand.
Yeah.
But it's Fran, about everybody being more accepting.
It is, well, from my perspective, I always kind of end up simplifying it and being like, am I being kind? Do you know, like, am I being kind? Am I being as generous as I can be? It's easy to see all the flaws in the system and be like, oh my goodness, we can't give enough for, say, children and young people with disabilities, and we can't do enough for families that are struggling financially. And so 15, 20 years ago, we would have had care packages, we would have had money to have been able to have given families money, really, and now we do not have anything in that way at all, nothing, so so it is about, I know even within the team, the morale and the motivation for our team, can be low at times. And then it is about thinking, I certainly think, listening to people and, hearing what they're saying, seeing what creative ways can be done. And I know it can sometimes feel like it's lip service, but actually if you are able to do some things, we have bring and share lunches, or and our manager sometimes makes scones or scones, depending how you want to say it, we have, it's often food related, if I'm honest, but there are different ways of bringing kindness. And I think, in terms of judgments, and like you say, Marianne, we all have judgments, even if we hope that we don't. And I would say, really interestingly, I probably was judgmental from the age of 0 to 16, but I would say that it didn't really ever go into my head, the judgments. I wouldn't have thought, oh, this of that person, or this of that person, or this of that person. But once my dad died at 16, oh my goodness, they flooded my head. I can remember thinking, oh, what's all this negative thoughts about people?
I think we all come from our own point, though, don't we? I remember saying people said to me, "Oh, you don't look like somebody that would lost somebody to suicide," and I'm like, "Well, here's the picture of one because that's me." I probably didn't think. Well, I know I did say it at the time, but we all come from our own. But it's what you do with that after. I'm sure I've said things to people before, but as you say, it was only going through that. I think probably that actual life moment really made me think, wow, you know, it's not wrong to think that. So I try to be really kind, even when people make judgments about me. I try to be kind back when I educate them. So when people say commit suicide, and I say, oh, there's a kinder way of saying that, which is to take your own life. So I try not to badmouth people because they don't know, and they go, "Oh, thank you very much for educating me." So it's about trying to sort of change people's, because we all come from our own perception, and that's not a wrong thing. I think if we all just opened our minds a little bit more and opened our minds, but also tried to be kinder instead of shouting at people for you said this wrong, and you know, and then feeling judged as well. It's just like chill out over the whole thing and just be open-minded to learning.
Yeah.
It's difficult because sometimes we say things. I mean, that's a really good example you gave. You know, you don't look like. I did a podcast yesterday with two guys who are blind and homosexual as well, and they, you know, it was all about coming out twice in their life, etc. And I asked them a question on that. I said, you know, what's the worst thing that anyone's ever said to you? And you know, I think both said, well, you don't look like, you know, such and such. And I think it's such a common thing that people say, you don't look like such and such. And it is hurtful, I think. But at the same time, it's probably just someone's inner dialogue coming out because they're trying to make sense of something, right? And it's that big thing about perhaps just don't say it. Think about it first before you say it.
Yeah, or is it the receiver? Is it the receiver that?
No. I think it's about just turning that around a little bit and just and perhaps saying, do you know what? I'm in my head. I was thinking you don't look like this, and I know that would be an incredibly weird thing to say, but what I mean by that is, and I think people just need to explain their faults a little bit more.
But I think both sides. But I think both sides. I think if the receiver, I think people get far too offended by things. I think you can choose to be offended. Like I've said, and Fran, you've probably heard it before, where people have said things about, you know, about your dad and stuff like that, and you know, people make jokes, they use connotations. And people go, "Oh, don't you get offended?" I say no, because unless I feel that somebody's actually said it to me to be offensive, I'm pretty sure every day I say things. So but I just think if everybody stopped, sort of tried to get down off their high horse and just thought, we're all just coming at stuff.
Look at the motive.
Yeah, we're all just coming at stuff from our own. We might have had a bad day and you take it in the wrong way. It might be that the whole thing about being triggered, which you would never talk about anything. You know what I mean? So it's just like you said, Fran, just be kinder to each other. Just be kinder. Really.
We need more of that. We definitely need more of that, being kinder to each other.
Definitely.
I definitely think we need to look outside of ourselves a lot more, and look at what's, you know, look at bigger picture stuff as well. I think we really do need to look at bigger picture stuff. I mean, there was a really interesting, going back to that program, the Rich House, Poor House one. There was a really interesting episode of that where the rich person was someone that was a property developer, but the property development that he got into was a lot of social housing, and within that, he was also bringing in really clever initiatives to really help people. So there was one scene where he created this they designed specifically this set of social housing where there was like joint kitchen areas, and then in those joint kitchen areas, so he was creating community, but also into those kitchen areas he was bringing in chefs, etc., who would teach people how to cook. Not only how to cook, but how to cook collectively, so that actually they could pool their money together and actually, you know, maybe one night of the week this person or two or three of them could cook for the rest of them and actually make the money go further. I thought that was brilliant. You know, he was actually looking at the bigger issues that were involved in somebody being in social housing and that area of their life, and how do you help these people get somewhere else, you know? And it starts by this bigger picture thinking, I think.
But I think because we've got such a transient communities now. I mean, I don't. Again, I've had to sort of teach myself about this and have a check, because, you know, I haven't lived in that many houses. We own our own home, and to sort of realise that people do move around so much. And actually, even doing community events are quite difficult now, because you organise them and people just don't really come a lot. I do once a month. You've seen. I do a help with coffee morning, and I bring my children down. 15-year-old's hard to get involved now. Fran, you'll understand that. But the 11-year-old still comes and he helps make the tea, and he goes and goes and takes orders from people and that kind of stuff. And I really love it, because I think the raffle is a bit of a draw for him. But it's great, because I still want them to be involved in that with different ages and older people as well, not making assumptions that all young people don't care and stuff. I guess I feel sad that people don't do more of those things. I go and sit and talk to my neighbour every day. He's one of my best friends, and we drink tea and we just put the world to rights. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing grand, but it just is what it is. And it's those conversations, and he knows I've taught him so much as well, and he's taught me. He teaches my kids stuff. I sometimes feel that that's part of what's happened now. We watch Call the Midwife, me and Oliver, and he sort of sees what goes on there. And actually, I think young people really do like that kind of basic stuff. They do like it, but it's adults that often thrust the other stuff on them.
Yeah. Have we lost the sense of community, Fran?
In some pockets, and then I think obviously COVID had a huge impact. Oh. That's not very attractive photo.
Freeze it again. That's right.
Oh my goodness.
We can hear you. We can hear you though. We can hear you.
Oh, right. How funny. How funny. I mean, I think that has huge. I mean, I suppose the other thing that I get sad about in terms of social care, and I'm not sure, it is sort of related to community, is that I feel the big thing that we have made no difference on at all, unfortunately, or no, we make some progress and then we don't, is anti-racist practice. Anti-racist practice, I think, is a huge thing that we have not made as much difference as I was really hoping for in my 20s. And having said that, when I think about the progress made around sexuality, then I think, oh gosh, we've made, not just us, but obviously, society itself, we have progressed, but with racism, and especially institutional racism, I think is still a huge issue, and something, and in terms of community, I think there's pockets of community. So, I think it is. I think yes. Some, maybe from, again, this is only sort of my lived experience, but I think probably in some kind of faith-based organizations and charities, then there's a sense of community and bringing people together. Churches, mosques, other faiths and religions, and charities, and bringing people together with a common interest. So I'm a befriender for against modern slavery. So immigration, asylum seekers, refugees, and I think in a local hotel, there's been an organisation called Welcome to the UK that have been doing huge amounts of work to help with building community. And yes, that might be within their own community, but also then thinking about what they can do as part of the wider community. But again, I think sometimes it can be about what you're interested in, isn't it? What you look at and what you see.
Yeah.
And that's when sometimes it can get very overwhelmed, or I can feel quite overwhelmed, just with a massive wave in front of you. You think, oh my goodness,
and then also not knowing where you fit. Quite often I think, where do I fit? Because I've had a lot of judgment to me. What would you know about anything? And I think, well, I can't say that I necessarily know this or that about that. But then at times you sort of think, yeah, I do find for me when I go to it's not even about church, to be quite honest, because when we do the coffee morning, it's just the church that hosts it. It's the one place I go where I never feel judged. Never ever feel judged. I walk in with my gym gear on because I go in, I help for a bit, I go out, I go to the gym because that's important to me, and then I come back and then I help clear up and we all sit and have a cup of tea together. And it's probably the one place with all sorts of people from all sorts of background where I never feel judged, always feel accepted, always.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a fascinating conversation, and it's been good to get to know you, Fran. And it's making me think that we shall have a separate conversation on community and expand on that, and maybe talk about online community versus face-to-face community, because I think there is a massive, there's a massive conversation there, because we are actually part of a much bigger global community now because we are all online. But have we kind of lost a sense of community at local level? I mean, how many people actually know anybody else in their street? Not
a lot of people don't.
Not a lot of people out there won't. So that for another day. But Fran, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Again, we've had a few technical issues. Apologies for that. But I guess a lot of you will actually listen to this, and I hope the audio isn't too bad once I clean it up a little bit, etc. If you've enjoyed this, please do share it with other people. If you haven't, put it in the bin, move on, go away. It's up to you. But until next time, thanks for joining us all. From Marianne, from Fran, from myself, bye for now.